So, Tiffany, for the benefit of everybody listening or watching, would you like to introduce yourself, tell the people what you're up to, what's important to you, why you're doing it?
Yeah, I would love to. So I am a transformation coach and entrepreneur. Andy, I think for as long as I can remember, really, I have always felt like there was something more for me. And I didn't really know what that was. And most of my adult life, I have felt like my external world was not a reflection of who I really was on the inside.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to do about that either.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's this element of me just feeling like I was being who I was in my life. But the truth is that I really spent most of my life, becoming who I thought other people wanted me to be and who I thought I should be.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of listening to my own truth. And I thought that if I could just fix my family, fix my relationships, fix my career, that I would finally feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And that thing in me that said that there was more would go away. But it never did.
So did you go about trying to fix stuff by changing the circumstances in your life? Is that what you mean?
Oh yeah, like changing jobs, changing relationships.
Absolutely, yeah.
Working harder to make the relationship that I was in work.
Yeah, and working harder in your career too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and just trying new things, a different job in a different area. And honestly, every time I went through kind of that cycle, it was like it just made things worse. And what I realized was that everything that wasn't working in my life was really a symptom of me not knowing, loving, and trusting myself.
Love that. Yeah.
So what I'm passionate about doing is helping people to go from mediocre to magical. And together we create, harmony inside and out.
Yeah.
My mission is to create a sense of belonging where each person feels free to acknowledge their own gifts and talents, to hold a space for others to be fully self-expressed and confident in who they are, and to lead others on a journey of self-acceptance and growth. Because those were all the things that I needed and that I desired in my life.
Sure, yeah. That when you spoke about belonging, I was just immediately thinking, well, surely that's something everybody understands, the need to feel a sense of belonging. And how is it you go about bringing that helping people bring that into their life? As a coach, as your way of being in your everyday life, what is it for you that you're able to do for people?
Well, I feel like this directly relates to my purpose, and how I show up for people in this space is directly related to my purpose. So can I just share that with you right now?
Sure. Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So my purpose is to uplift and give others permission to believe in themselves so that they are inspired. That's really important. So that they're inspired to confidently dance and sing in the light of knowing they can choose to follow their heart's calling.
That's lovely. And that's that being your purpose, a statement by which you kind of live by or live from as
Yeah.
such, I should imagine that informs the way you are with people. Yeah, that informs your decisions in everyday life, right?
Yeah.
How does that tend to show up on an everyday level for you?
So the thing that I feel about that is there was a time before I had words to articulate what my purpose is.
Mm.
Right. And now there's the time after. And the difference for me and the way I feel like this shows up in my everyday life, it's not that it didn't exist before, and we can go back to that, but
Yeah, sure, I'll get it.
is that there's intention.
Mm.
Because I have words to put to that, because it resonates with me so fully, because I can now see the way that has played out in my life, and that it is just a piece of who I am.
Yeah.
Now I can do it with intention.
Sure.
And so it is like this beacon, really. I've used compass before too, but I beacon it's like this thing that's just shining out there and drawing me to it. And so when I am choosing how to interact with people, or choosing just what it is that I want to do with my life, then there's a very strong sense of that comes along with it. If it's something that I feel really pulled to do, I can always see how it relates back to my purpose.
Got you.
And
So
then it's always very exciting.
right, and that's important for you to remain motivated in what you're doing, right? And also to get you through the tough times, because sometimes things don't work out like you expect. Sometimes things get a little bit tough. Sometimes fears come up in the face of us getting done what we need to be getting done. And we need something bigger than us to take us through those tough times, through those fears, to get us to the other side, to make it worthwhile taking, to feel the fear and do it anyway. There needs to be something bigger than us. That's easy to say, isn't it? But it actually takes something bigger than us to make it happen, right?
When you are in full alignment, when something that you are about to take on is in full alignment with your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
there is no stopping you. Mm-hmm. Like there becomes such a sense of ease and flow. And I'm not saying that you don't have to work,
Sure.
or that maybe you don't struggle sometimes, but like you were saying, there's a sense of there's something bigger for you, and it just keeps drawing you in, and there's just nothing that's going to stop you from continuing to move toward the beacon.
Right. And the way I'm seeing this is that purpose gives you a way of connecting with that something that's bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Connecting with a greater, higher purpose, if you like. That's how some people might describe it. But still at the same time, something that really resonates with you as an individual, that you're motivated towards. And it's like connecting with something far bigger. But this is all, like you say, that what interests me is to go back to what you said about it's always been there. It's always been operating in the past. But maybe somehow we weren't aware of that. And in becoming aware of these words, in bringing our purpose down to a statement that we can use to guide our life, there's now intention. And because there's intention, things no longer seem to happen by accident.
Exactly.
They happen on purpose, right? And this is the beauty of it, because so much of our life we spend feeling like stuff just happens randomly or by accident.
Yeah.
And I really don't believe, personally anyway, that is the case. I believe that there's there's things at play that we're just not aware of, that makes things seem like accident, that makes things seem random. And I love the fact that how you talk about purpose being something that's always been at work, always been at play in the background, and we've not necessarily been aware of it. And now that we're aware of it, we can bring it into language, use it to guide our intention, and now we can live life on purpose. And
Yeah.
when you talk about choosing to take action in alignment with your purpose,
Yeah.
give me an example of what that would be. I mean, how would you know something's in alignment with your purpose?
The easiest thing that's coming to me really is just in the things that I'm choosing to do in my business and the way that I'm choosing to spend my time.
Okay.
Right. So one of those things is that I'm doing a podcast, and there was something about the podcast that was exciting that I was feeling pulled to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, it always just comes in one step at a time. I believe that the universal GPS gives you one direction at a time, just like the GPS in your car.
Right.
And until you follow the direction, it's not going to give you the next thing.
I got you.
So
the kind of idea that, you know, you take one step at a time, and then once you take that step, the next step becomes clear.
yes.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Yes. So
There's a lot of trust involved with that, isn't there?
absolutely. I mean, that's one of the biggest pieces of it. And I think it just relates back to believing in yourself.
Mm.
But there's trust that needs to be built there. And we have been cutting ourselves off from who we really are pretty much since the day we were born. Incrementally, that's been happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
In our lives. So I don't know that I've ever articulated it exactly this way before, but I keep being drawn back to this idea of a beacon and like a homing device.
Right.
You know, there's like, so you're driving your life, and the universal GPS is telling you which direction to take next, and the destination is always to take you home.
Uh-huh.
And home is your purpose.
Okay, I see.
Yes.
Yes.
Home is your purpose.
And in terms of that trust that we need to have in order to take one step at a time and never being able to see more than one step in front of us.
Yeah.
Knowing your purpose, it enables you, it empowers you with that trust that's required to just take that one step at a time, right?
Yeah. If you recognize,
yeah, sorry, carry on.
Right, if you recognize that the direction is always home, then you know that there is nothing to be afraid of. I mean, one of my favorite kind of mantras right now is I'm always exactly where I need to be, and everything is here to help me. So whether I would consider that like some situation potentially negative, or even just something as simple as I'm sitting in traffic.
Yeah.
In those moments, I can just say I'm always exactly where I need to be, and everything is here to help me. It dissolves all the frustration and you know, potentially the anger or the worry and all this other stuff that can come up. This is another thing that's been coming up for me a lot, and I really just love the idea of it. We often think about, as we're kind of deconstructing something, the things that have happened in our past or a particular behavior that we have, we think about there being layers of that. And what I've come to realize is there are even more layers of that than you would think that there are layers of that. But the other side of that is that there are also layers to constructing something. Just like when you build a house, you know, they pour the foundation and then they build the framework, and then the walls go, like there's a process.
Yeah.
And there are layers to constructing it. So from the time we were born until whatever point it is that we decide it's time to make a change. We have been incrementally, I used before, but we have been constructing the layers of what it is now that we want to deconstruct, and then we're moving out of one house and into another.
and in a way, I kind of, in terms of what we were saying before, with life just seeming like it was happening on accident, drifting through life, kind of feeling a little bit like a rudderless boat, with no real direction, stuff happening in our life, taking us this way, and then something else happens. There's no real power and sense of direction in our life, right?
Right.
And it's coming into contact with purpose that gives you that intention, that direction, that then allows you to go, actually, you know what, this accidental house that's happened, that's been constructed layer by layer, seemingly by accident, isn't really what I would have built had I have chosen it.
Right. Yes.
I'm gonna tear this house down, and I'm gonna intentionally build my house now as I know it would best suit me, and therefore everyone else around me.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's going to want to come round and have a party in this house with me.
I like this part of this conversation is just like lighting me up all in my back and in the back of my head. It's great.
Lovely. I want to go back a little bit to what you were saying about when you mentioned about the frustrations that can come up sometimes. Let's say when something's not going to plan.
Right.
I think this is where purpose can sometimes really hold value for us as well. Because when we talk about taking responsibility for who we're being, that again comes back to purpose, because who is it we're actually choosing to be? Let me give you a bit of context about this.
Okay.
The way I see things going on in our life is that we place importance and define ourselves in terms of what's going on around us. We define ourselves by our circumstances. We define ourselves by what we're doing and what we have. And ultimately, those things change. We don't have any power over that. And if we place our self-identity in things that we don't have any power in controlling, or they've come about not through us anyway, then our sense of identity can all of a sudden disappear one day, and that could be taken away from us. There's no power in that.
Yeah.
But what we do have the power to control, what we do have the power to choose, should I say, not control really, but to choose, is who we are being in response to those circumstances, who we are being within the doing, who are we being in the having of whatever it is we have or haven't got. And who we are being is a choice in every single moment of who we are being in response to those circumstances. And if we define ourselves by who we are being in response, there is always a choice to define yourself in a way that can never be taken away from you.
Yeah.
And that's what I love, because it's internally generated.
Yeah.
That cannot be taken away by anyone or anything. And to me, a sense of purpose is what gives you the direction of what it is you want to create, who it is you're going to choose to be in that circumstance, which might not be so pleasant. And you can empower yourself with that choice to be a certain way, no matter what the circumstances. Maybe you get to love the situation that otherwise you would absolutely hate, and create an unpleasant experience for yourself because you have unpleasant thoughts about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean when I say it isn't the circumstances that create our experience. It's our thinking about the circumstances that creates our experience.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Because otherwise, my whole mantra of I'm always exactly where I need to be and everything is here to help me wouldn't work.
Right. It absolutely wouldn't. No, it would just be no more than wishful thinking, would it?
Right. It wouldn't work. And so I feel like this is the beauty of purpose. And I think people also think that they need to find it. And I want to make a distinction here, because the truth is, for me anyway, that, and I kind of referred to this before, but you are and always have been your purpose. The way that I see my purpose is like my purpose is the essence of my being. I have always been my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that there's like well, we're very busy disconnecting ourselves from who we are from the time we're born, right?
Yeah.
And then I was mentioning before, like this feeling in me that said there's something more, there's something more. And I feel like that was all like that feeling was my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And
you mean your purpose telling you that there was
yeah, like, yes, like
mm-hmm.
just
like an inner knowing kind of.
Yes, like an inner knowing. Yeah. That's all I can really, there was just an inner knowing that there's something more for me. And I feel like that was my purpose. I didn't know what that was. And I think that I could have been saved a lot of the confusion, maybe, for myself if I had words to put to that. But for me, it was just a feeling.
Yeah.
Like I just knew there was something. I just didn't know what it was. And being able to put words to it has helped me. I feel like I know myself in a way that I've never known myself before, even though I've always been it.
Yes, absolutely.
And now, rather than just doing it on accident,
yeah,
I do it on purpose.
Sometimes things worked out, sometimes they didn't, and you didn't really know why they did or why they didn't. But now, do you know what? Something that this is really drawing me back to a memory I have. You know, in terms of purpose, when I'm living in alignment with my purpose, things are just going well. I'm in flow. And I don't really notice it then because obviously things are going well. Mm-hmm. When I really notice it is when I'm feeling a little bit out of flow. If I'm feeling some kind of lack of power, freedom, self-expression, there's something out. And whenever I examine it, it's always, I was acting or thinking or being in a way that was not in alignment with purpose, with my purpose. Mm-hmm. It always correlates with how I'm feeling. And when I look back, you know, it's clear to me that there's clearly a reason, and it's because I allowed myself to forget about the purpose, the reason why I do everything.
Right.
And I allowed myself to slip out of integrity with myself as a result. So, you know, when you received your purpose statement, when you went through the pinpoint your purpose process and you received your purpose statement as a result of going through that.
Yeah.
What was the experience of hearing those words for the first time?
Total elation.
Right. Why? I mean,
it was so like I felt it in my body on such a deep level. And
I mean, the reason I'm sort of asking why is because to a lot of people, you know, a purpose statement is just words. Yeah. Why did you feel such elation in receiving this purpose statement? You know, it's just a sentence that kind of describes what's important to you, but how does that really, really change how you feel in that moment? And therefore how you live your life from there on? What is it about that statement that really matters to you in the moment?
I think it's an expression of my essence. And that is why I felt so connected to it. And it felt so true to me. And there was a moment though that made that even more true. And that was when the person delivering that to me said, if somebody were to ask me if I knew you, I would say, you know, not as much as I would like, but I know what she needs. And he basically read my purpose statement back to me. And I started to cry. because it's like the thing that we give the most is the thing that we need the most.
Yeah, I've got that.
And like, it just touched me to my core. It took me home. And I think that's related to what I was trying to say earlier. There's the difference between having just the feeling and having words to almost communicate this with yourself, you know?
Yep.
It really does become a homing beacon. It becomes a compass. It becomes something that you can filter things through. So this is what I didn't have before. I didn't have the words to allow myself sort of this deeper understanding of who I am, to filter all my life's decisions through.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now I do. And I feel that it makes a huge difference, because we always have that intuitive sense, you know, and that is a filter as well. And some of us are more in tune with that than others, or we've been more in tune at certain points in our life than others. It's like taking that intuition and putting it into words and giving yourself something external, actually, to filter things through. And I think that just provides you with, an opportunity to be really clear, and to connect with your intuition on even another level.
Yeah,
it's really beautiful.
Yeah, and a lot of the thing I know from personal experience that people find difficult about trusting an intuitive sense is that a lot of the time you can't put language to it. So therefore you can't equate it to decisions that you might make in your life. You can't equate it to stuff that's going on. It doesn't make sense as such. It's hard to trust something that doesn't make sense and you can't put language to. It's hard to give that enough credence to base any decisions on.
Yeah.
But once you do, if done in alignment with purpose, as you say, it's that homing beacon that you start to generate enough trust through taking that first step that you start to realize that it's taking you home.
Yeah.
Because you literally feel it. You feel yourself being taken home. It's like coming home after being away a long time. You know, we all know that what that feels like in our everyday lives. Even if it's just knowing what it feels like to be returning home after work, it's like there's a sense of relief. There's a sense of, you know, that homecoming feeling.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying, the feeling, isn't it? That's the feeling of being in purpose. It's coming home. To allow yourself to be a certain way that is in alignment with purpose just builds that trust that you need to take that step and then take the extra step. But the more you do it, the more trust comes, and the less courage it feels like it needs.
Yeah.
You take those steps.
Absolutely.
But what I feel that what the purpose gives you is the sense, the language around it to to help you take those first steps, and then to sort of course correct, if you like, as you go. And that sense of homecoming that you talk about, that feeling of being on purpose, that you have something to do with how your life turns out. Just begins to grow and something you can live into. So, Tifanne, I mean, with regards to the future and growing and living into, you know, like how do you see your purpose contributing to yourself and others in the future? You know, what are you living into with regards to your purpose? What kind of a difference do you see your purpose making to yourself and the world, the people around you?
Yeah, I feel like I just, again, get to create my world in a whole new way, because I have a clear vision of what home is. and it can be a filter for everything that I would ever choose to do, from honestly, from where I decide to eat, or what it is that I decide to eat, or who I spend my time with, or where it is that I choose to live,
Yeah.
or the kinds of things that I choose to do in my business.
Yeah.
Anytime there's any kind of decision, there's an opportunity to reconnect with home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I have this great opportunity to just create a life where my external world and who I feel like I am on the inside actually match.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing. That's what I've done. I won't say that that's complete, because I'm always on the journey. But I definitely feel like I have a very, good start to, like, I've built the foundation now, and now it's just about creating the layers. So yeah, that's what it looks like for myself.
Gotcha. Go on. I was going to say, in terms of how that sits within that podcast that you're creating.
Yeah.
For me, I happen to know that your purpose is your podcast almost is your purpose.
It absolutely is.
Tell us a little bit about the podcast you're doing.
Yeah, so it's so exciting. It's called Powerful Perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
It is a space where I have the great pleasure of spending time with people like yourself, who just have a unique way of being in or seeing the world. And when I invite them to be on my podcast, it is an opportunity for me to help them acknowledge and celebrate where it is that they've come from and who it is that they've become.
Gotcha.
And that piece is, it just, that makes me feel so amazing, because it is the whole uplifting people.
Yes, that's part of your purpose. Yeah.
It is part of my purpose.
Yeah.
And then within the podcast, I ask them to share powerful perspectives that they've had that have really inspired their hearts and changed their lives. So we, as all the listeners and me as providing the space, get to acknowledge and celebrate these amazing people
Mm-hmm.
for their journey. Then also sharing that inspires other people as well.
Yeah.
And really, one of my favorite bits about the podcast is that it's by invitation and referral only. And part of the acknowledging and celebrating people is that either I am sharing with them why I have asked them to be on the podcast, or if somebody referred them, that they're recording a short video about, who is this amazing person and why I feel like they're a great fit for this podcast.
That's great, because that then gives that, it's almost like a gift, isn't it? It's
Yes.
like a gift that you can give that person as acknowledgement to who they're being, who you see them as for yourself in your own experience in the world. And as well, because something I know to be true for me, at least, it's like when we find ourselves being a certain way, and we might have people around us who appreciate the way we are and who we're being, it's very easy to just take that for face value and not realize what's gone into that, because the journey in getting to where we are is what's made us what we are in the moment. And we spend so much time getting wrapped up in results that we never really stop to acknowledge and enjoy the journey, do we? Yeah. And we never actually really take that time for ourselves to acknowledge, you know what, we're doing great. Life's not that easy sometimes, and if you're somebody who's being and acting in the world in a way that inspires other people, then I personally see that as exceptional.
Yeah, they're just our people who, when you're around them, they are a light, and you can see that. And I think sometimes they don't see it for themselves, which is why it's such, so nice for us to be able to acknowledge them and celebrate them for, yeah, for who it is that they're choosing to be. The other thing that makes me really excited about this podcast is we're talking about everyday people.
Mm.
We're not talking about, I mean, I won't say that, I know all of them have done amazing things, but we're not talking about the billionaires who have 10, best-selling books and all this kind of stuff. We're talking about people who are working in coffee shops.
Yeah.
And I'm just coming to this now, but it's also helping to bridge that gap between mediocre and magical. Like there's magic in your life right now. Yeah. And let's acknowledge and celebrate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. That we absolutely cannot step over that. My mission is to is to help people create a life they love. Ultimately, that is the goal. That is the mission, because life is so precious, and every moment is to be treasured. And stepping over the beauty in people is leaving out a massive part of what it takes to create a life you love. Really appreciating and connecting with people is a massive, massive part of loving your life, because relationships is everything. Your relationship, you have a relationship with people, you have a relationship with yourself, you have a relationship with your career, you have a relationship with the sky, you have a relationship with objects, anything. And it's our relationships, like I say, our relationships that determines our quality of our life, really. And, really appreciating who people are to us and what they are for themselves as well.
Yeah.
In the light of so much going on, so much challenge, I absolutely love the idea of acknowledging people who just make the conscious choice to love their life and live as happily as they can to the best of their ability, and do that for other people too.
And for every person who is a guest on the podcast, to just by them showing up and sharing their story about the magic they're creating in their lives, they're giving other people permission, which is also part of my purpose. To go out and do the same thing. And it seems silly that we feel like we need to have permission for stuff, but we stop ourselves all the time. So if other people are doing it, then it sort of gives us the green light.
So that's really lovely, Tifanne. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, if they want to know more about your podcast, if they want to know more about anything else that you're doing, your coaching business, how can they do that?
Yeah, so the best way would be to go to my website, which is tifannelark.com, and it's spelled differently. So
please spell it.
TIFANNELARK.com. And there they will be able to complete an application to have a powerful coaching experience with me if they would like. They can also subscribe to get access to my private Facebook group, which is called Powerful Conversations, Knowing, Loving, and Trusting Yourself.
Love it.
And then, of course, they'll find links to all this social stuff and that kind of thing too, and where they can find my podcast and those kinds of things.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks so much for joining us today, Tifanne. It's been lovely having you on. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Andy. Bye-bye.